Good afternoon. I'm Mike Halligan, CEO for God's Pantry Food Bank. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your busy day to join us today. Today is Hunger Action Day, and the month of September is Hunger Action Month. Just a little bit more about that in a minute. First, I want to introduce a couple of guests that we have here today. First is Commissioner Chris Ford back here in the corner. Chris, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. And the second needs no introduction, Mayor Linda Gorton. Thank you so much for being here as well. Linda has a few comments here in just a moment. God's Pantry Food Bank is one of 200 food banks across the United States who is recognizing Hunger Action Month in September and also recognizing Hunger Action Day today, September 12th. Across the United States, 1 in 9 people are food insecure, may not know where their next meal comes from. Here in central and eastern Kentucky, it's 1 in 6. 250,000 people who are not sure where their next meal may come from. 70,000 are children, 18 and younger, who are not sure what food they will have to fuel the healthy lifestyle and diets they need to be successful as they grow. Hunger is something that we can solve. Hunger is something that we need to work on hard every day to make a difference. And at God's Pantry Food Bank, we are very proud and pleased to have great relationships with the federal government, with the state government, and most importantly with the local government here in Lexington, Fayette County, and all across the 50 counties that we serve. There are dozens and dozens of volunteers, wonderful donors, a large body of constituents that make a difference in our lives every day, and more importantly, make a difference in the lives of those who are less fortunate and aren't sure where that next meal may come from. Let me introduce the mayor. Linda, thanks again for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you so much. It's great to be back here at God's Pantry, and it's an extra bonus that I get to see my good friend Kristen Ingwell Good. Thank you so much for having me. We're here to talk about something that a lot of us in this room may not ever have to think about. And we're here to talk about something that far too many of our citizens do have to think about. We're here to talk about going hungry, about not knowing where your next meal will come from. God's Pantry Food Bank thinks about people who go hungry every day. Thank goodness. There are 48,000 people in Lexington who are food insecure, and God's Pantry helps them. And there are, as you heard from Mike, thousands of others. You have our support, God's Pantry, and I want you to know that. We love God's Pantry. We show that support in many ways. For some of us, we take cans of food to church. We put them in a God's Pantry bin. Others host food drives, volunteer at distribution centers, or become advocates. And it's interesting because I was just at a conference speaking right before this, and the conference was called It Takes a Village. That applies here too. It takes a village. So congratulations, Mike. Thank you very much for your work, and as well as the work of all of God's Pantry. And now it is my pleasure to present a proclamation. That's one of the fun things that a mayor gets to do quite often. And so I'm going to ask Mike to come up, and I'll read the proclamation and present it to you as well as to God's Pantry. So
Thank
just
you.
come right up beside me.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Whereas nearly 250,000 adults, kids, teens, and seniors are food insecure in central and eastern Kentucky, including over 48,000 in Lexington, and whereas since 1955, God's Pantry Food Bank has faithfully provided food, nutrition, and hope to thousands of Lexingtonians through its pantries, children's and seniors programs. And whereas today, God's Pantry Food Bank partners with more than 200 referring agencies and supplies more than 400 food pantries and meal programs across 50 central and eastern Kentucky counties. And whereas the food bank is a highly respected nonprofit organization that distributes 39.7 million pounds of food a year, enough to create 33 million meals, and whereas thousands of residents, businesses, foundations, and elected officials serve as God's Pantry Food Bank volunteers, donors, board members, staff, and advocates supporting the food bank as it fights hunger and delivers hope. Now, therefore, I, Linda Gorton, Mayor of Lexington, do hereby declare September 12th, 2019, Hunger Action Day in Lexington. Thank you so much.
Linda, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations on your good work.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
So as Linda said in the proclamation, it takes hundreds, it takes thousands of people telling stories, raising awareness of those that are less fortunate. Many of us know a neighbor right down the street, across the road, a couple of blocks from our office, who's not sure where their next meal may come from. A senior who has unexpected medical expenses. A child who may have lunch during the day with the National School Lunch Program, but may not have a meal in the evening. An unexpected medical expense, some unfortunate circumstance with family, something that changes their life, something that they need to adjust for. For Hunger Action Day and for Hunger Action Month, there's three things that I would encourage people to think about. The first, share those stories that you know of. Don't name names, but talk about the situation. Help people understand that many of us are one unfortunate event away from being hungry. Share those stories. Social media, Facebook, your neighbor, whatever the case may be. Second thing I would encourage folks to do, volunteer. Volunteer at God's Pantry Food Bank, volunteer at a shelter, volunteer at a soup kitchen, volunteer at a pantry. Help those who are less fortunate change their course. If you're interested in volunteering at God's Pantry Food Bank, go to our website, godspantryfoodbank.org. There's a section that talks about volunteering and all of the wonderful ways that you can help people by making a difference with your skills and your talents. And the third thing I would encourage people to do is make a donation. No amount of money is too small. $1 for our organization over the course of a year allows us to gather and deliver enough food to create 8 meals. And in September, through the generosity of a handful of donors, we have a matching gift pool that doubles the value of that contribution from 8 meals to 16. Go to our website, godspantryfoodbank.org. You can securely donate on that website, and you can make a difference in the life of someone who's less fortunate. Linda, thank you for the proclamation. Thank you for the wonderful support that we get from the Lexington, Fayette Urban County government. And thanks to all of you for all of the great work that you do behind the scenes, making a difference in the life of someone less fortunate. Because of you, they'll have a nutritious meal tonight, next week, next month, and throughout the year. And that's what matters. That's why we do the work that we do. Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Excellent. Yay. Thank you.